Yo, 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 Lelisen here, bringing another video. This is 2 in 7 days. Your boy's on a roll. But on a serious level, what I want to be speaking about today and the topic I'll be touching is one which I believe is going to be quite a hot topic for a little while, mainly because of Echo disbanding, a video being released recently. What is the topic I hear you scream out loud? It is the game actually dying? Now, I think I will rephrase this is the game dying, or are some people butthurt and salty they just lost? And not only did they just lose, their leader just left. So, I mean, I'm going to touch it on with speaking about certain topics and some things which I think might be more helpful to hear when they're not in a biased view. And someone who's, I mean, you could say it's biased because I enjoy the game still, but I'm not biased because I know the negatives and I know the positives, and I don't believe the negatives are what people try say they are. I think they're something completely different. And I think the biggest one and comment of that is major players and leaders leaving and alliances disbanding. Now, this isn't new. This has been happening I'll say quite often, but it's also been, throughout the whole entire game. It's been throughout the whole entire game in Rise of Kingdoms. It's non-stop. It keeps happening. It's part of playing the game. No one's going to be here hanging around for the rest of their lives. They are going to leave eventually, and all it takes is something to trigger it. Now, you have Sod and Tempe leaving and Echo potentially disbanding. They might stay as Echo, but we know they're not going to be the Echo we once knew. We'll see how it goes after this KVK. But they're leaving, and they're not leaving because they don't enjoy the game anymore. And now the argument will be, why don't they enjoy the game? And it's hard to say without them fully going into it. But we're on about players here who are on the peak level of Call of Dragons. It's the number one fighting alliance in the game at the time, or it's arguable anyways, if they are. But it's also players who are playing non-stop, days in, days out, non-stop, little sleep, getting stressed out. They're losing. They've lost 2 in a row now. Or is it 3? No, it's not 3 because I was on the one before. But they're losing, and of course it's going to get stressful. They're getting hate quite often, which you are always going to do when you're a top alliance. And I don't mean number one, I mean just any decent alliance at the top of the game playing in these big KVKs are going to get hate. It's how the world works. So they're getting all this stress, they're playing non-stop, they're playing the game at its peak level. Eventually it's going to burn out. No one's going to be here non-stop doing this and burning themselves out without wanting to leave. And I think their time has come, and I think that's ultimately what it is. I don't think we can say the game is dying because they want to leave. I think they're leaving because they've just had enough. They've played it too long non-stop at the level they have, and they just want to rest. They want something different. They want to navigate life in a different way than, putting it based on Call of Dragons. Now, for me in my real life, I run a business real life. I have over 100 people I have to manage who fall under my leadership, as one would say. And then I'm a leader in Call of Dragons, which is, it takes just as much time near enough running it in Call of Dragons than it does in real life. Now, this can be very daunting for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't want to do it. And a lot of people will actually be dragged into it unwillingly, and then they just keep on rolling with it. So I think if you want to say compare leaders or peak level players and say the game is dying because they're leaving, you're completely delusional and it's biased. The only way you can measure if the game is actually dying is if less people are continuously playing and leaving throughout the game, non-stop, at big levels. And we can't measure it by top players leaving. It doesn't determine the rest. There's very few players and alliances which are playing at this level. Everyone else is at a more casual level, where they play for a lot less period of time and they handle personal life a lot more. And, the amount of top level players compared to this is crazy. We're on about like maybe 1,000 people in the whole of the game playing at this level, if that. That doesn't determine if the game's doing well or not because they leave. I think the problem with the game is how quick the game can get new players. I'll touch on this a bit more because I've seen this in my project I recently did in 801 with Crowned in Blood. And the amount of players in servers, new ones now, is completely different than it used to be. But that's my opinion on with players leaving. I don't think big players leaving determines if the game's dying or not. I think that's just the nature of the game when you're playing at this level. Now, I'll highlight the next topic, which is decorations, because people will say, this is it, they've done it, nail in the coffin, blah, 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 blah. Now, decorations, I'm not going to argue, it's pretty fucking shit. They've not done it correctly. If they wanted to do something differently, which I thought they would do, because if you compare it with Rise of Kingdoms have many different pay-to-win aspects. You have gear and formations, whereas Call of Dragons had less of them. And Call of Dragons is no doubt much more free-to-play friendly, which is why people really like it. But when you're looking at these decorations and how they've done it, the reason I think they've done it wrong and how it should have been done is the decorations itself is fine. The percentage and the cost is what's wrong. Now, you have high costs and high buffs. They shouldn't go hand in hand. It should be one or the other. And if you have one or the other, the problem's fixed. If you have high buffs but it's easily attainable, then great. Everyone can get it eventually. Then it can kind of render the fucking decorations pointless, but you can argue this with T5 in the endgame. And then you have the other option where the buff is low and the price is high. Now, that's why I think it should be just like a city skin. If you have a 15 to 20% buff, which you could argue 20% is too high, but it's going to cost you 10 grand to get it, I think a lot less people is going to get it and it becomes a lot less worthless. However, then the game's going to argue, well, what's the point in even doing it if no one's going to buy it? But the main players will buy it for the extra 15-20%, but at least it doesn't affect the rest of the game. Now, the other topic on this is, well, who's actually buying this? It's very small, limited number of players in the very end game, top-end servers. This is not really going to be happening in middle-tier servers, middle to high-tier, and definitely not low-tier servers. So it's only affecting very few people, but everyone wants to complain about it like they're all being affected. And people are not being as affected as much as they think they are, in my opinion. It's only very few people at the very pinnacle of the game. And if you don't like that, well, yeah, you do have the two options. You can leave, which we argue some players have left, but I don't think they've left because of decorations. I think it'll be in multiple things, not just one thing. And then you can leave and go to a server where it's less competitive with less Krakens and enjoy the game like that. There is solutions to this game. But yeah, the decorations, that's my opinion. They could have done it differently rather than having high buffs, high cost. Should have been one or the other. Now, the next topic I'm going to touch on here will be the KVK maps and the big argument of the gates and the difference of building and what is the effect of it. Now, it is a problem. There's no reason they shouldn't be even. The fact they didn't make them even, and this is what I mean here, is the structure of how many towers or flags it takes to get from the pass-through gate to the dragon. Now, it should be even no matter which gate you come from, but it's not. However, I do think people like to hold on to this as it's the only reason they're losing in KVK. Now, I will argue that for most reason people lose in KVK is because they're generally going to lose because they have less power or less activity, or they've done the whole Diplo incredibly incorrect. So, I think they just dwell on this and like, the only reason we lost is because of the fucking gate and the dragon and blah, 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 blah. And the reason I say this is, you look at Echo versus TFS. Now, Echo's YouTuber, I'm not going to say the name, you'll know if you know, is tried to highlight this in one of his videos recently where the game is dying, which has kind of the reason why I made this video. And he pointed out that when Echo was trying to build into the final zone, that TFS and 25 and Lion was way further past the dragon than Echo was because of the passes when it wasn't correct. I believe he's on about this zone here, and he's saying we had Bastion set up here so Echo could have come past, whilst Echo was still up here and we surpassed it here, and 25 built up from here to there. And this isn't correct. The reason why we were so advanced up here and they were still way behind here is because we continuously pushed them. And whilst they were trying to build towers, we was always at their face, fighting them and slowing down their towers, where they were never doing this to us. And the reason because of this, you can argue, which I will say is poor Diplo. You know, the Diplo was poor. They chose two alliances to fight with them who, you know, just got steamrolled. They don't belong in this KVK. They got steamrolled. It wasn't even close. Echo thought they would carry them. They couldn't carry them, and then they'll blame them, saying they're AFK when, you know, they could have Diploed with anyone. But Some people need a scapegoat. Some people need an excuse. I don't think this Dragon and Towers is, it's as detrimental as people make out. Yes, it does affect it to a level, but I do not believe people are losing KVKs because of this. Generally, I'm sure there's maybe one or two which has, but generally, no, they're losing it because they're just losing it and they want to blame the KVK map. But I will agree, it should be even just for the sake of being fair. Now, I'll touch on my last few topics, which is, well, how does the game improve? How does it combat all of this stuff? Is the game dying? And I think it's not that the game is dying as much. The game's going through its normal cycle of people leaving, which will happen in every game. The problem is the new players aren't joining quick enough. And the example I will give here, which I mentioned with my project, is when I first started playing the game, of course it was the hype, and it was 2-3 years ago or whatever, so it wasn't hard to fill the alliance or the map. Everyone was joining. And then I made one again in 358, where it's now Pod who's been fighting against EIS. And we've seen those two are now 801. When you start in your zone 1, there's an alliance in every single zone 1. That's how it was back in the day. Whereas now, there's only alliances in the first 3 zones, because it seems there isn't enough players to put players and alliances in all zones. So when the past 1 comes, that's like, it's technically like your second zone. You're now moving into the next zone because there's no alliances there to take what you need to take, rather than them being filled, which just shows to me they don't have enough players to fill the servers, and rather than filling a server, they're opening another server because there's projects, etc. Like myself, we was waiting for the server to open. Now, how do we combat that? I think they have to just suck it in and wait for servers to be filled. Wait until there's enough players and alliances to fill all zones, and once there is, then you move on, because then you're going to have better retention, because the season 1 is going to be better than what it is right now. And you also improve on your marketing. There's no doubt Call of Dragons has one of the worst marketing campaign strategies of the games. It's all a big facade, it's a big lie. The only thing you have to do is play the game for 1 hour and you'll understand what you saw in the advertisement was not what the game wanted. Now, I'm sure the return on per click, per dollar, how much you have to spend to get one player to download the game is better with these fake advertisements. It would make no sense to do it. But is the retention of a player playing 1 month later better than it would be if your advertisement was correct? I can't say because I don't see the data, but their campaigning and marketing has to change. It has to change to be a bit more honest, to make people understand what they're downloading. And once they download it, they want to keep playing it because they understand what they was downloading, not being completely baffled by what the game turned into. So I think this is one way they could improve it. Hard for me to say when I haven't got the data, but the marketing is clearly the biggest thing. The marketing budget they have might be completely poor and low compared to Rise of Kingdoms, which is why Rise of Kingdoms keep getting new players. So it's one thing, and arguably the biggest problem in the game is new players joining, not players leaving, because that will always be a cycle. Now, what's the next point? I think is their interaction with the community or their content. And I will give a perfect example, which I've not actually seen any comments about, is how shit the content was for Roots of War. So throughout most of this, there was no streams for Roots of War from Call of Dragons. It was just Guns. Guns was carrying the whole Roots of War commentary on his back. No one else was really doing it to a point where everyone wanted to watch it. Call of Dragons wasn't doing it. Now, if you look at Rise of Kingdoms, they do it, and they build duos to host this. And I've not watched it in a while to see how it was advanced, but when I used to play Rise of Kingdoms, that's what it was. Now, what could have they done differently? Well, you could have gone for all of the big alliances people are wanting to watch, like you do on TV. TV and sports channels will not show you every game. They'll show you the ones they believe you want to watch. And they should have set up a commentary team. This shouldn't have been one player just doing everything for the whole game. There should have been 2-3 people on a broadcast live where Roots of War and Call of Dragons have given them a better layout, better screen production, which would allow the players to bond with each other and bounce off each other rather than having one person having to commentate every single thing and speak for the sake of speaking because you can't have a commentary which goes quiet. Now, if you had multiple people in the commentary, you're going to have people recommending different things. You're going to have arguments going against each other, saying this is what they should have done, and someone goes no. And rather than just chatting shit for the sake of chatting shit to fill content, you would have actually had a constructive argument or conversation, something entertainment. There's only so much entertainment one person can give you. Put 3 people in a room, entertainment will be much better. And the content only came from Call of Dragons when it came to like the semis or quarters. Like, it was too late. The hype should have been from day one. This is something new the game should have done. The hype should have been from day one. They should have invested money into it. They should have paid content creators to get involved, or not even content creators. Big players which names are recognized should have been involved in the commentary to push the game and the production of the game. What the production they should have put into this should have been so much better. So I think, the Roots of War could have been so much better if they put more effort and attention to it, which is a big problem. And then my last part, which is basically touching on this same thing, is the support for content creators is not what people think it is. And the only reason I know this is because I went onto the creator zone yesterday. I got accepted into it. I applied for it so I could do the streamer mode on my channel, so you don't get to see my handsome AI character covering my chat bar you can see right now. And so I applied for it, and then I looked at the incentives, and the incentives, they're not good. They're incredibly poor for what it should be. I believe, what was it? It was 3 videos in a week. So 3 videos in 1 week, which is a lot of work and a lot of like creativeness to start thinking of, okay, can I create 3 videos of what people actually want to watch? Or do I have to make 3 for the sake of making 3? Okay, then what is my reward? What do I get out of this? It's like 1,000 gems and like a few speed ups. It's fuck all. So where's the incentive? If you want someone to make 3 videos a week, it should be higher. Now, I think that incentive alone should be for 1 video a week, because the reward isn't too good, but at least it gives someone incentive to like make, okay, I'll make 1 video this week. But to go, okay, we want you to make 3 videos, which is a lot of hours, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of thinking, it's a lot of preparation, but I'm going to give you next to fuck all. That is poor. That's the problem. And granted, yes, if you do the 3 videos a week, you get your name put in a hat, and they pick 3 winners out, and you get $100. So, okay, the $100 is nice. But if 60 people's competed for this, it's a slim chance you're getting it, unless you spend much more time preparing and doing more production. So I think the content creation needs to be supported much more. There should be more rewards put into it. There should be more incentives. And there should be competitions like, yo, you want to be part of our Roots of War tournament commentary? Okay, this is the level of production we want. If you do it to the standard we like and reach an audience, you're in. If you don't, and you don't put much effort into it, you're out. And the COD partners, I mean, I can't really argue the COD partners part, because I honestly don't believe there is enough good content creators to get this. I will argue there's only one. Maybe I'm not aware of all the other ones, but I would only argue Guns. Guns. And the reason I will argue Guns is because he's someone who seems really interested in the game. He's providing content all the time. He's streaming all the time. And then you have the other one, which is Chiskel. Now, I'm not really going to say any bad words, or I intend not to. But Chiskel's got it for the size of his channel and probably his loyalty to Rise of Kingdom, so they've given him it. There's no way I believe Chiskel should be having this, because he doesn't provide enough content. He isn't interested in the game, in my opinion. He's all in for Rise of Kingdoms. And I believe he does the Call of Dragons because, it pays him. That's my opinion on Chiskel. And then you have Hulkstone, which is not frequent enough. He isn't doing enough content. So there isn't much to choose from, other than one, in my opinion. But then the argument and the thinking should be, okay, well, how do we get more? And I think that is where the bottom tiers of partnerships could be improved by better incentives. So that's my opinion. Is the game dying with players leaving? I'll argue no. I don't think that it's dying in the way people say it is. It's only dying, in my opinion, due to the lack of players joining. And the lack of players joining has fuck all to do with decorations, KVK maps, or any bullshit like that. It's nothing to do with that. The new players don't know it. So that is the poor argument. The new players are not joining because they don't know about the game, or when they do download, it's not what they expected. So to improve the game, I don't think it's got anything to do with the current content in the end game. I honestly believe it's the start of the game, and it's bringing new players in who want to enjoy the game and keep pushing hard. And once the game sorts that out, I think the game will have a resurgence on a lot of new players coming in and doing well. Once it can figure that out, game's good. Until then, people are going to always keep leaving. People are always going to be bitching. People are always going to be moaning. It's not even how the game works. It's how the world works. And last comment: people complaining about new generation of heroes. Like, it's a new generation of hero. It should be better than the last one. There's no doubt about that. People complain for the mages. The mages are not good enough. We haven't got anything good for the mages ever. They're shit. We have Magzane archers. Magzane's OP. Okay, here's your new generation of mages. What the fuck? They're too OP. What were the devs thinking? Oh my god, they're too crazy. Like, bruv, for the whole year you've been complaining there's no mages which are any good. They're shit. They release some good ones and you complain. Like, there is no winning with a lot of players in Call of Dragons. You don't even know what you want, because when you get it, you fucking moan. So, I mean, this is my thing. I'm having a little rant, but players, I think, is a big problem. They don't even know what they want with the game. When the game gives them it, they fucking moan. The problem is new players joining the game, not old players playing at the peak game for days on end, no rest, leaving. And if you guys disagree with me, of course, speak. Let's have a conversation about it. We'll see our thoughts and opinions. It'd be great to hear what you guys think. I know there'll be a lot of players probably complain and say I'm chatting shit for the sake of it, which, I mean, I think I'm chatting shit because a lot of players piss me off with this stuff. It's not the real problem. In my opinion, the real problem is the game isn't getting enough players, not people are leaving, if you didn't get my drift. But thank you for joining this video. It's gone on a lot longer than I expected. 22 minutes. I did want 10 minutes. So, not really gone how I wanted it. But thank you for listening. Thank you for joining and staying this far. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.